Imagine, if you will, being born into a world of tiaras, private jets, and enough historical baggage to sink a naval destroyer. You've done everything right, you've worn the fascinators, you've smiled at the garden parties, and you've managed to stay out of the tabloids. But then, your father decides to become the royal family's biggest PR nightmare since the abdication of 1936. Suddenly, your invitation to the most prestigious horse race in the world doesn't just get lost in the post, it gets incinerated. Welcome to the current reality of Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie. It is a Shakespearean tragedy wrapped in a Windsor-shaped ribbon, and frankly, the tea is boiling over. Quick favor, if you are finding this breakdown insightful, do hit that subscribe button. Believe it or not, over 92% of our viewers haven't joined the family yet. It is entirely free, takes a mere second, and honestly, it means the world to us here at Royal Fusion TV. Thank you so much if you have already. Now, back to the drama. To understand why the York sisters are currently the most talked about royals not allowed on a balcony, we have to look at the seismic event that happened just last month. On the 19th of February, the world stood still as Prince Andrew was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. It was the final, heavy curtain falling on a career that had been crumbling for years. But while the king has effectively scrubbed Andrew from the royal website, the collateral damage is hitting Beatrice and Eugenie like a high-speed freight train. It is a bit like being grounded because your flatmate decided to joyride a tank through a shopping center. It is not your fault, but you are still stuck in your room. This brings us to the first major blow, the royal Ascot snub. Usually, the sight of Beatrice and Eugenie at Ascot is as predictable as the rain in London. They are the fashion fixtures, the ones who bring a bit of youthful energy to the royal enclosure. But reports have surfaced this week that the sisters have been quietly told to sit this one out. No top hats, no champagne in the royal box, and definitely no carriage ride. It is a brutal public signal that being tarnished by association is a very real thing in the House of Windsor. They are essentially the royal version of It's Complicated. But before we assume King Charles has turned into a cold-hearted villain, we need to look at the nuance. Transitioning from the public banishment to the private affection is where this story gets truly intriguing. The king is currently walking a tightrope that would make a circus performer sweat. On one hand, he is the CEO of Monarchy plc, and the brand guidelines are very clear: stay away from the scandal. On the other hand, he is Uncle Charles. Royal historian Ingrid Seward has been quite vocal about this, noting that the king remains very fond of his nieces. He does not want to punish them, but he has to protect the crown. It is the ultimate corporate dilemma, loving the employees but having to lay them off because the branch manager, in this case, their father, burned the building down. The evidence of this lingering affection is there if you look closely. Think back to Christmas at Sandringham. While Andrew and Sarah Ferguson were effectively persona non grata in the official royal capacity, Beatrice and Eugenie were still there, tucked away in the fold. Charles is trying to draw a line in the sand, a line that says, "I love you at the dinner table, but I cannot have you on the world stage." It is a delicate, and frankly exhausting, balancing act. However, the question remains, how long can you keep your family in the friend zone before it starts to look like a permanent exile? This leads us to the silent strategy the sisters have adopted. Since their father's arrest in February, there has been a deafening silence from the York camp. No statements, no leaked interviews, nothing. They are playing the long game, maintaining a profile so low it is practically subterranean. But is silence enough to scrub away the tarnish mentioned by the experts? The reality is that Beatrice, 37, and Eugenie, 35, are in the prime of their lives. They have careers, they have young families, and they have spent years trying to carve out identities that do not involve their father's controversies. Yet, here they are, being treated like royal radioactive material. It is a bitter pill to swallow when you consider that they have not commented once on the misconduct allegations. They are essentially being asked to pay a debt they never signed for. The royal freeze isn't just about missing a horse race, it is about the slow erasure of their public relevance to save the institution's reputation. Let us look at the broader picture of the slimmed-down monarchy. Charles has been preaching this gospel for years, but the recent legal woes of the Duke of York have accelerated the process from a gentle diet to a full-blown fast. For Beatrice and Eugenie, This means they are caught in a no-man's land of royalty. They aren't working royals, yet they aren't quite private citizens either. They are the royal equivalent of a software update that keeps getting paused, stuck at 99%, waiting for the system to decide if they are a bug or a feature. And then there is the emotional toll. Ingrid Seward pointed out that this has affected their lives a great deal. Imagine the awkwardness of the family WhatsApp group. One moment you are planning a Sunday roast, and the next, your father is being escorted into a police station. The sisters have to navigate their personal loyalty to their father while maintaining their professional loyalty to the king. It is a mental marathon that would leave anyone exhausted. Yet, they continue to carry out their private charitable works, perhaps hoping that good deeds can act as a shield against the public's glare. The tragedy of the York sisters is that they are caught between a king who wants to protect them and a father who has made that almost impossible. They are the collateral damage in a war for the survival of the British monarchy. Whether they can ever truly step back into the light remains to be seen, but for now, the gates of Royal Ascot remain firmly shut. As we move forward into the spring and summer seasons, all eyes will be on the guest lists of the major royal events. If the sisters remain absent from the Trooping the Colour or the summer garden parties, it will be the definitive proof that the king's tough love policy is permanent. The crown is heavy, but for Beatrice and Eugenie, the shadow of the crown is currently proving to be much heavier. Thank you so much for watching Royal Fusion TV. Would you like me to do a deep dive into the legal specifics of Prince Andrew's current situation, or perhaps explore how the other members of the family are reacting behind closed doors?